So, welcome to another episode of Red Lotus Life. I'm really excited about our conversation today because we're answering a question that came through. And somebody asked us, how do you get rid of patterns? Like, first of all, that was the first question. Like, how do you get rid of patterns? And then when we went deeper into the conversation, she was like, well, how do you do that every day, all day? And so it took us a minute to even I don't know. I guess try and come up with like actually how do we do this because it's so unconscious at this time in our lives now. We've been doing this work for so long. And also it's very conscious at the same time. So, we'll just see where this actually takes us and we'll just kind of go from there. But we wanted to share today how we actually do break patterns because we literally do it all day every day. And it's making us show up different in the world. I mean, we literally are showing up different in the world because of it. So, yeah. What are your thoughts just right off the gate? And then I'll come back in and introduce like what this is all about.
Yeah, so my initial thoughts are that we had a hard time coming up with exactly how we wanted to share this work because it is so automatic. It is so a part of our daily lives that uh, so many times we've already moved through a process so quickly that it's no longer relevant. And that is the part that people are desiring to know. How are you doing it? How are you
Yeah.
doing it on a regular basis? How are you no longer stuck in those patterns? And, what does it look like on the other side? Like they want to know, how are we doing this?
hmm
And so we had to contemplate for a minute because it literally is our lifestyle.
It is our lifestyle. It's our total way of being. And so to actually sit there and go, it's almost like saying, well, how do you breathe? Right? How are you
Mhm.
taking a breath and going, okay, wait a second, let me think. How is this actually happening? So this is really exciting. I'm happy to talk about it because it's a big topic. So like I said, I'm not exactly sure where it's going to take us, but I love it. So yeah, welcome to Red Lotus Life. I'm Lori Kinsey. I'm an advanced spiral practitioner, and this is Sara Elizabeth Hoffman. She's a womb spiral practitioner and also a spiral practitioner. And to be honest with you, we wouldn't be here without this work. Like, this is literally why we do everything that we do. This is why we show up here in this space, is to share our lived experiences because we have not been a statistic and we are truly breaking cycles and especially patterns, right? You're whenever you've experienced um, extreme conditioning of any kind, I'll just say that
Mhm.
extreme conditioning of any kind, we've all experienced conditioning. I mean, just watching TV and listening to commercials and watching commercials and stuff is conditioning. So every single person has experienced that. But it's this extreme conditioning that the social work and behavioral health field has actually said that you can actually can't, it's very difficult to break these patterns. And and we are proof that yes, you can break these patterns. We live it every single day. This is just our way of being. And so the way that we show up in the world has been very different. And people are interested in that, which is why we even do this work here on the channel, on the podcast, all of that. So I thought it was cool that somebody asked us, well, how do you get rid of patterns?
Mhm. Well, there's numerous ways that we get rid of patterns. One of those ways is using the tools of the spiral, obviously. That's why we're here. One of those ways is practicing embodiment. Another of those ways is like implementing, there's so many different tools, so many different modalities that we have implemented on a daily basis that just all work together. They create this beautiful synergy, which is something I always talk about, and we won't go into that right now. But all of these tools and modalities work together in a way that is so not only precise, but we move through it almost flawlessly. It's only a matter of taking a moment to pause, figure out what it is we need to do in any given moment in order to shift. And
Mhm.
it might take it might take a little while to actually be able to shift, but it's pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because we talk about it. So we have Say Yes to Soul, which is a program that we have, a group program where we literally do the work with everyone else in the group. And then also we have Lunar Journeys where we do the same, right? We're doing our work in there. And we have different chats that we're all part of as we share the integration and stuff. So this actually comes up all the time because that's literally this work. That's literally what every single person is doing is we are bringing our patterns into our awareness. And then the second that we have it in our awareness, we make that decision, right? Of like, oh, okay, I'm in my thoughts right now. My thoughts are swirling out. I'm totally in story right now. Pulling
Hmm.
it back, like having that awareness of like, okay, this is what's happening. So now pulling it back. So now it's in the conscious awareness. Like, okay, what do I need to do now? Oh, I need to make a decision to actually break the pattern and do something different. A lot of times that's physically do something different, do an action of some way, shape, or form. And then we're no longer in that story. And all of a sudden it just dissolves. It's just cool. The focus isn't there anymore. The energy isn't going there anymore.
Yeah, it's not going there. And that's the entire point. We need to move the energy. And just an example that I can use for myself is there was a time when it was really easy for me to be stuck in the mental body. And, maybe some of you are familiar with the term ruminating. And so there might be a lot of ruminating happening in the mental body, the ego wanting to really take over for us. And then, what happens is then you can really quickly be stuck in a place of victim mentality, or you can really quickly be making up scenarios that don't actually exist or haven't even happened and probably aren't going to happen. And then there's another aspect that I've journeyed with where my channel is really, really strong. And so as you become more and more embodied, something that I have had to do is be able to use more and more discernment around what is actually the processing of the mental body versus what is actually being channeled through. Um, so those are just a few different examples of how I've journeyed with that, just, from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to that part where you're talking about scenarios
Hmm.
because this is exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Um, And so going back to like the extreme circumstances, right? The extreme conditioning and stuff like that. If we're in controlling or abusive or any kind of situations like that, um, that's what happens. It's normal for the mind to now go, all right, I'm going to create all these different scenarios because I need to keep myself safe, right? I need to get like for me, I'll give myself as an example. I used to create all of these scenarios because I had to keep myself and my family safe. So I would start doing all the scenarios, right? Well, it could go at positive and not so positive scenarios, but I would go into all the different scenarios so that my mind could figure out, well, what am I going to do if these different things happened? Because I never knew exactly what was going to happen. I never knew exactly what kind of mood or situation or anything was happening or was going to happen. Where am I going to find, where am I going to find? What situation am I going to find myself in? Because I could never depend on what was going to be coming home or what I would be coming home to. And so I would go into these different scenarios of, oh, if everything is good at home, then this is what's going to happen. If things aren't so great at home, then this is what's going to happen. If things get very extreme and violent, then this is what needs to happen. So I would literally start to create these different scenarios and I'd be future tripping all over the place because nothing, I couldn't count on anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah. So I was just thinking about an example of that for myself is, um, sort of like witnessing a scenario that you could see potentially happening in the future with one of your children. And then going down the rabbit hole and getting stuck in the mental loops of what if this happens? What if this happens? This is going to happen, but it's never happened yet, but there's the potential for it to happen. And so you can really get stuck in a loop where that is concerned as well,
Yeah. I
especially with
mean,
those types of situations where our children are involved.
yeah, exactly. So being like where that, where I used to be with that kind of scenario, that was the conditioning, the conditioning was everything had to be perfect or situations would turn harmful. So I'm just trying to like kind of remember so that I can even share. That's why I'm saying I don't even know where this conversation is going to go because it's so unfamiliar now. Like I don't even recognize that person that I was. Like, see, I don't recognize her at all. So I'm trying to sit here and go, so now, I had all this conditioning that would happen that would put me into that situation, like into that mind space, right? That head space and go, okay, how did the spiral help? Well, the spiral helped because I was able to release all this conditioning around it. And so now I literally, in the beginning, just like what you said, sometimes it takes a while, right? In the
Hmm.
beginning, it kind of did take a while because you have to have it in your awareness that you're even doing it. You have to have it in your awareness that there's even a pattern that's starting to play out in your head. But then the second that you have that awareness, now that's when you can actually do something about it. And for me, I mean, we just talked about it in one of the chats. Which one was it? Was it Say Yes to Soul or was it Lunar Journeys where I brought up the pattern that I noticed myself doing?
I believe that it was Say Yes to Soul.
Yeah. Okay. So I was talking about, like, I was putting my own integration in there and I was talking about how, I always think about thoughts as like clouds in the sky, right?
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
kind of just like see them and I'm like, cool, just float on by. Like there's really no attachment to that. There's no emotion to any of it. Like I just kind of go, yep, cool, I see you. Keep floating by and it floats by. But what I noticed, the pattern that was happening, and this was literally like last week. So I noticed the pattern was happening where I don't even remember the situation at this point because it's not relevant anymore. This is what we mean by like it's kind of hard to like go back and think about things, but I noticed that these thoughts started to accumulate. So let's talk clouds. And now all of a sudden, these little like floaty clouds are now starting to pile up, and I'm starting to see it's actually quite a bit of cloudy skies, right? And all of a sudden, I find myself going, "Oh wow, I'm so much in the mental body right now," and I'm like, "What am I thinking about? Oh wow, this is such a story. It's not even true. Like it's so not true." But the second that I noticed that. I was like, okay, now I've got to shift my energy, my focus into this and be like, what the hell are you doing here? This isn't even me. This isn't anything that I even think about. This is not my mindset. This is none of these things. It was a total story. So then I noticed that and then I had to clear it out. The part that bothered me that I actually shared in integration was that it took a lot of energy to now go, oh, wait, what? I have a storm is building, right? A storm is building in the sky now. And that's the part that actually bothered me because then I had to really go, okay, what am I going to do? And I don't remember what I did, but I literally had to be like, what am I going to do to shift myself out of that? I had to do something physical to shift myself out of the story, go and actually acknowledge, oh, that's story. That's this, that's that and then do something different. And that's the part that actually bothered me. I was like, oh man, I can't just watch those clouds go by anymore because they build up and then it gets stormy. I was like, oh no. So after that, since that's happened, because we are still integrating and Say Yes to Soul, yeah, the second that I have a limiting belief, the second, I wish I could remember the actual situation, but the second that I have a limiting belief, it's like, nope, it's gone. I no, it has no room here right now because it did take so much energy for me to be like, oh man, how long has that been building up to where it finally got my attention?
Yes, and it becomes exhausting. It
Yeah.
does become exhausting. And so, something that happens, and this is kind of going back to like really getting good at becoming the observer so that we can keep our nervous system regulated. Because when we like allow all of those clouds to gather, then we start to create chaos, or chaos starts to happen around us, or that we get that feeling of overwhelm, or we feel anxiety about all of these potentials that could be happening or could be in existence. But when we're able to just like pause, observe, and notice, then, and we get better at that and better at that and better at that, we can notice what we notice and then actively take the steps to shift it.
Hmm. Yeah. What's an example like that that you've had recently?
Hmm. Okay, so an example that I will give, just because it's pretty fresh in my mind, and I think that you will resonate with this and probably have something to share, so you can let me know. But we have recently been integrating a clear from that we did in Lunar Journeys. So we've talked about Say It's the Soul, now let's talk about Lunar Journeys. And the gift of this clear, or the gift of this gene key, it was gene key 8, the gift was style. And so what happened is for me, I started noticing style and expression and everything in all of the different places. And so then I like started looping in, okay, how am I actually going to express? How am I actually going to present myself? How am I going to create in a way that is actually expressing this? And it really did, like, it kind of snowballed. And so I had to actively shift out of the mental body, get into the physical body by actually going and doing the work and creating, right? Or going outside, putting my hands in the dirt, doing some gardening, creating it that way, making things beautiful. Oh, and also like an entire day cleaning off the back porch. Like,
Beautiful, by the way. Oh my gosh, so pretty.
okay, and now it's all coming back to me, Lori. Because we move so quickly through these processes. We literally had to sit here and contemplate and talk about it to actually remember that that happened last week. Oh my goodness.
It's true. It's so true. I mean, that's why this was such a good question. And honestly, we should
Yeah,
probably talk about it a lot more.
right. We probably should. This could probably be several different conversations.
Yeah. I
Ah,
mean, it is, honestly. I mean, because this is the stuff that we talk about all day, every day, because we do it all day, every day. And, the people that we work with are constantly like, but how do you, because we're able to shift it so fast now that even though I was saying, gosh, it took a lot of energy and focus to now clear out my storm. So I had clear skies again, right?
right.
But literally that happened this fast. Like that thinking process happened so fast. I was just annoyed that I had to do that. Going,
Right.
come on, Lori.
Right.
Like, don't let
Yeah.
those clouds build up, right? But just bringing it
Mhm.
into the awareness, the energy leak. But yeah, yes, that lunar journeys was so huge. It was so huge for all of us because
Mhm.
we started to realize, okay, so it was Gene Key 8, Shadow of Mediocrity,
Yeah.
Gift of Style, and then the City of Exquisiteness. And it
Yes.
was all about our signature frequency. I don't recall right now what the actual block was because we've had another lunar journey since then.
Right.
But we do lunar journeys every 2 weeks, new moon, full moon.
Hmm.
And so it was so fascinating though, because we did get to see like how has conditioning actually muted our style and how has being in controlling relationships actually completely dissolved, which we have actually a whole nother episode that we talked about that. So
Yeah,
I actually don't want to get into that right now.
right.
But that was a really fun one to do because we did every single person who participated in that one. I think it was fun for everyone because we were able to really see the patterns, right? That was easy. It was easy to see the patterns. It was easy to see where we were muting ourselves. It was in the way that we express in all forms, right? All five bodies, the mental, emotional, energetic, physical, and spiritual bodies.
Hmm.
And it literally went out into everything that we did, the way we spoke, the way we dressed, the way our home was, our yards.
The way we create, I mean,
Yeah.
just in every single aspect.
Yeah. So that one was like super fun because we were able, it brought all of our patterns straight to the surface in that way.
Hmm. Yeah, it truly did.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness. So, what's so fascinating is that oftentimes when we're doing this work, it is bringing those patterns to the surface and it's bringing them up to the surface really, really quickly. And so sometimes it's hard to even, um, we don't even have to particularly notice what these specific patterns are as long as we are noticing that there's like a feeling, um, noticing if you're in the mental body, noticing if you're feeling stuck. You don't even actually have to know what the specific patterns are. It's just like, oh, I notice I'm feeling mediocrity right now. I can do better. How can I express my style? And
Hmm.
so in that way, that's one of the ways that we're able to move through these processes without actually feeling the trauma
Hmm.
of the conditioning.
Hmm. Yeah, because it literally shows up every day. It
Hmm.
shows up in everything we do. So if somebody hasn't, I mean, we've done a lot of deep work ourselves, but it always shows up just at a a deeper level,
Yes.
right? And
Hmm.
so when we say that we're releasing the conditioning, we're talking about like, yes, that we don't release emotions. That's part of being the human, being in the human experience. In fact, what we do is we actually
Feel more.
really, yeah, we feel more because we're embodied. We're no longer dissociating, we feel more. And so
Hmm.
now we're able to actually be the conscious observer that you're talking about, right? The conscious observer, and we're actually observing our own thoughts, our own feelings, um, just all of it, like literally all of it. And that's what's so cool about the work we do because it opens us up to so much more. So now getting back to like how to break a pattern, how do we do it all day, every day? Um, this question was specific even to like, do you like, how do you do that when you're in the same situation? And it's like, oh my gosh, we're always in the same situations all day, every day. And it comes back to the individual, right?
Hmm.
It comes back to the individual, and we get to break patterns all the time. I always bring things back to health because everybody understands health, fairly well. It's like if you are wanting to, let's say, lose weight, the first thing you do is you look at what am I eating, right? That's usually what am I eating? How am I moving my body? How am I nourishing my body? Am I nourishing my body? You start looking at your patterns like nutrition, sleep, movement, all of that. And then what happens, you make the decision. Hey, I want to lose weight. We see it
Hmm.
every year, New Year's time, right? All the New Year's resolutions. I want to lose weight. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Da, 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 da. It's that moment in the decision. And so it's you, the individual. It really doesn't matter who you're living with or like if
Right.
you have children or anything like that, like your circumstance is still all there. It comes down to you and what decisions are you going to make for yourself. So I kind of bring it back to that because a lot of times it feels so overwhelming, right? It feels overwhelming to be like, how do I how do I make different decisions when emotions are involved? Like, how do I make different decisions in relationships that I'm in and things like that? So, do you have any thoughts? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think there's so many times when it's very difficult to make different decisions as long as the underlying root cause and conditioning is still present, which is really the crux of our work. Like, this is where the work lies. We so often do not make different decisions because the conditioning is still being held in the body. And so when we use the tools of the spiral, we're actually able to get to the root of where the conditioning started so that we can now make different decisions, make different choices, no matter what our circumstances are, no matter what environment we're in. And then when you do that, once we do so, we're able to actually, like, our energy shifts in a way that inspires others to shift. So instead of eating the same meals just because the other person is eating those meals, we're choosing now to make a different choice. We're being the example, right? Or instead of, what's another example that I can think of personally? Instead of choosing to Netflix and chill all day, every day, just because there's time and space, we're choosing to actually create and do something different. Instead of not going to the gym or not going for the hike or not going for the walk, we're choosing to not only nourish our bodies, but go move our bodies despite what another person is doing. And those are just like really everyday examples and just kind of barely scratch the surface.
Yeah, but it's such a good example. I mean, because it is every day, because we are in our environments, we are in our circumstances, you know?
Mhm.
So I love that you even brought this up because by you even talking about that, I'm like, yeah, there was a pattern actually. So I actually have something super recent that I can share because I noticed so patterns are just always in our field of awareness. I mean, just because of the work we do and also because we actually live this work. Like this,
Mhm.
like I refuse to continue to be stuck in patterns that don't serve me because I'm here to live an amazing life and I know that now, right? I have my worthiness, I have my deserving, I have all of that here now. And so whenever I see patterns that aren't serving me, I am like, oh no, something's got to be done about this. And it's
Yeah.
I noticed last night. I actually noticed last night. So normally, okay, this is a great example of how I actually process. This is really hard, I think. I don't want to say it's hard. I think it's more difficult if you haven't experience if you're not seeing a spiral practitioner or somebody that does some kind of emotional clearing around conditioning, because whenever you are doing that, it's pretty easy. You can it's like it's pretty much in flow. Like as soon as once it's in your awareness, you kind of know what to do because you don't hum and ha over it, I guess, basically. Let me put it that way. You don't hum and ha over it because authentic self is here. The connection to authentic self is here. And so it always comes back to the individual. The circumstances and environment around you is not really a thing at all. And it always comes back to self. So, with
Mhm.
that in mind, it's so funny because I love patio living. I love summertime. I love being on the patio in the evenings. I mean, I will spend hours outside in the summertime, especially in the evenings. I love it. I mean, you know that, yeah, both of us are just like, oh, yeah. I mean, I will be out there, I'll be working, I'll be reading, I'll be just listening to music. I'm hanging out, meditating, I'm watching the birds, I'm watching the bats come in the evenings and stuff like that. What I noticed since we moved to our new place, which is not so new anymore, it's been a couple of years now, but or getting ready to be a couple of years, I noticed that there's this pattern that is happening that is not feeding my soul. And when you brought up the Netflix and chill, that's what it was. So I find myself because I don't know, work hours are all over the place right now as well, but I keep finding myself going and relaxing with my husband on the couch. Like that's what I'm finding. Like he's usually like, "Hey, want to watch a movie?" I'm like, "Yep." let's go watch a movie. Hey, do you want to watch one of our series? Yep, let's go. Yep, I sure do, you know. And I'm finding myself at night just getting like zoned into whatever it is. I'm enjoying it. I love hanging out with him and having a good time with him and just watching, our series and stuff like that. But I noticed last night, I said, yep. He goes, do you want to watch a thing? And I was like, yep. And then my heart was like, oh, we're gonna do that again. That's kind of what my heart did. And I was like, oh, what's that about? And so I kind of went into that literally as I'm putting dinner away. I'm like, oh, what? So inward now contemplating, cleaning up after dinner. I'm like, what is that? What's going on with that? And then I realized, oh, my heart, my soul is actually wanting to go spend time on the patio. She's wanting to go out there and listen to music. She's wanting to go out there. Like, I'm not somebody that watches a lot of TV anyway. So, how do I break the conditioning, right? How do I let the conditioning fall away? Well, I ended up going, if I lived by myself, what would I be doing right now? If nothing mattered and I lived by myself, what would I be doing? And it was the patio.
Mhm.
And so I said that to him. I'm like, yes, actually, I do want to watch the series because I'd already said it. I said, yeah, I do want to watch the series, but I think tomorrow night I'm going to spend some time on the patio. And then all of a sudden my heart was happy. My heart was like, oh, okay, yeah. And then I told him, I said, yeah, there's this weird pattern going on right now that I don't really love. And then one of my gifts is, what is the Carnation cross of explanation? So I explain
Yeah.
everything. And so I told him, what was happening. And so this is the ripple effect. So now getting into the ripple effect, right? You talked about the circumstances, the environment, and how it inspires others when we change, when we shift and make a different decision, right? We break a pattern, make a different decision. So I'm telling him about that. And I said, yeah, I think like I don't really watch a lot of TV anyway. He goes, you know what? You don't watch it. He goes, I don't watch a lot of TV. And then he starts, kind of going into it, and we're going to see what happens. Maybe I'll give an update on what happens, but I'm not going to be watching TV tonight. I'm going to be out in the patio enjoying things. More than likely, he's going to join me out there, right?
Mhm.
And so then that's the ripple effect of not getting sucked into something that doesn't necessarily matter and isn't necessarily lighting you up. So yeah, there's a real time example.
Yeah, I love it. It's a perfect example. And it's actually like we've had similar conversations over the years as we've continued to do the work about different patterns that we've noticed that we can easily fall into, but we catch them so much more quickly. And then also there's this aspect of, okay, we notice this is not what's lighting us up. We'd rather be doing this other thing. But then because we do have the awareness and we have broken the patterns, we now get to use discernment and we know that we can choose a healthy balance, just like what you were just sharing, Lori. Like that balance comes with, okay, yes, I'll Netflix and chill tonight, but tomorrow night, or when it's raining, like for me, I've become really, really intentional about, okay, when am I going to be working? When am I going to get my outdoor time so that I can be in nature, so that I can work with my plants, so I can go for a hike? And so, like, a lot of it will depend on the weather. Like, I know if it's going to be really, really rainy, that's my cue for like extended stints of like creativity and getting shit done, honestly, getting work done. Um, or if it's really, really nice outside during the day, then I'll be intentional about getting outside and getting my son outside because in the evening now I can go and I can work or I can relax on the patio myself. um, like there's a lot of different ways to actually find balance and harmony, be able to express your style, nourish your soul, and actually also accomplish all the things you'd like to accomplish, hopefully, right? I mean, there's
Hmm.
always going to be a million different things to do, but if you don't find some kind of balance there, then like the scale is going to go, and then you're going
Hmm.
to be depleted, right?
Yeah. Okay. So while you were talking about all of that, I was sitting here contemplating, right? And I was processing. So real-time processing. And I was like, why did I do that? And I went a little deeper. Like, why did I do that? How did I fall into that pattern? What was going on? Oh, you know what? It was the conditioning from the controlling relationships that I've been in. Because if I didn't do what my partners wanted to do, then that would cause an argument or something like that. And
Right.
so I literally broke a pattern. I broke a conditioning and a pattern in that moment just by listening to my heart and going, "Wow, what's going on here?" So, as it where that would go, I'm trying to think because people we always talk about how we're not statistics and we're breaking the pattern. So that would be me not getting lost in another relationship,
Hmm.
losing myself in another relationship, I guess.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would be the pattern that's being broken. And because I'm not going to lose myself. It's not going to become codependent. I'm not going to, yeah, because soul wants to sit on the patio. It's such a stupid example, but it's so real time that I hope somebody relates.
It's true. It's so easy to fall into those patterns and just all of a sudden, like nothing about what feeds your soul is what you're doing on a daily basis. And also, like even in your example, Lori, like now you've set the example to now, like the precedence is, okay, we're going to enjoy the patio, probably, right?
I hope so.
Right. So that's also that's I mean it's just like how we can have someone shift with us just because our energy has changed, just because we are now in our power, we are now in our sovereignty, despite whether they know it or not. The shifts do occur.
Yeah, they do. And then before you know it, you're living a higher quality of life.
Hmm.
And it happens that fast.
Yeah, sometimes it happens that fast, and sometimes, I mean, not as an individual, like speaking for myself, I can shift really, really quickly. Sometimes those around us don't shift as quickly, especially when
Mhm.
they're not doing the work. But okay, going back to the conversation is can we do this work when we're in a certain circumstance? Yes, we can. And maybe it takes a little bit longer, but when you stand in your power and in your sovereignty and you are doing the work, you are deconditioning the patterns, it really doesn't matter what's happening in the external circumstances as long as you are remaining true to yourself and standing firm in your own boundaries and what you stand for.
And that's what this is the work right here, what you just
Yes.
said.
Hmm.
This is literally the work because we're strengthening with every clear, we are strengthening that connection to self. And so we know ourselves. We know ourselves and we know when we're getting out of alignment with that. And it's really easy and quick to shift back into alignment. Um, if I hadn't found this work, yeah, I would lose myself in another relationship. I wouldn't even know who I was. I wouldn't even realize, oh, that's what I like to do.
Hmm.
I would have just been like, yep, let's watch another movie. Let's do this, let's do that. I would have been going with the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to speak back to, because I know this is actually a question that's been asked, um, can this be done in the situation? Um, Absolutely. And to respond to, I had something here that I was hearing that was relevant. And then I think it kind of got twisted with another scenario. Um, can you repeat for me? Do you remember the last thing you said?
I don't know. I'm like, what was I talking about? I was talking about, oh, losing myself in another relationship. And if I didn't have this work, so
Okay.
strengthening connection to self, blah, blah, blah. Mhm.
Okay. So that's what I was wanting to speak to. When we actually are moving through the healing process in a specific circumstance, that actually teaches us what we're available for and what we're not available for. It actually allows us to practice boundaries and get really, really, really clear around those boundaries. That way, we aren't actually going into another relationship and making those same choices. So you can do it two different ways. You can do it within a circumstance in a situation, or you can be out of that circumstance and situation and still continue to do the work, but you still, it's kind of hard because I've never actually tried to share this before outside of having conversations with you. So, yes, no matter what, doing the work will help to get you very, very clear on what you desire moving forward instead of making the same choices.
Yeah.
And you actually
I
stop making those choices in that situation. If it is a circumstance that you're in, you will stop making those choices by doing
yeah,
this work.
yes, you stop making those choices. And it's also funny how we can feel like we're in a box and we feel like we have no choices. We feel like we have no, like we are, this is our life, this is what we do, this is no matter what. And it's because we have lost ourselves in that relationship.
Hmm.
We've lost our individual self. And so it really is coming back to self and making a different choice. It's fascinating how we start to feel, especially if emotions are really involved, right? Because I want to say, if we're talking about, hmm, there's so many. I kind of don't want to go into this too much because it's going to start a whole different conversation. Maybe this is one we can come back to, but it really is like realizing how much, and I can go back to my experience that I was talking about in the very beginning on how I would go into all those different scenarios, right? And it was because my well-being and my family's well-being, I thought depended on somebody else's emotional well-being. So depending on their other person's emotional state, when I was in that situation, I would have all these different scenarios play out because I thought I didn't have a choice and I had to go with whatever was going to come my way, right?
Hmm.
But now, if I was in that situation, which yes, I still am in these situations, right? Because a lot of circumstances don't change. And so, yeah, so now it's like, no, I have so many choices. And how I have the choices is because I have become clear on my boundaries. So just like what you were talking about with boundaries, it's like, I didn't know what boundaries were. That's what I'm saying. This is like a whole different conversation. So I don't know if I really want to get into it, but I had to get clear on who I was, what I was available for, just like what you were saying, what I was available for. Once I did that, now I have boundaries. Now I can communicate them. Now I also have choices. If
Hmm.
somebody's going to cross my boundaries or anything like that, now I have choices.
Hmm.
I don't have to, and this doesn't matter if it's a loved one or not. This is such a deep subject because it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's a loved one. We all
Mm.
have choices and we get to use our discernment, but it comes back to this whole self, right? This sovereignty
Yeah.
that happens. And that is actually what happens with the work that we do, is that we're able to release the conditioning from the root of when it started, because usually it's not where the circumstance that we found ourselves in. It's usually not that. It's what has happened before we've now found ourselves in these circumstances. And so that is the work that we do. We go back to that and then we come back to self. And then now we understand ourselves so much more. I had no idea who I was when I first started this work. It's funny, I thought I did. I mean, if anybody sees my story, I totally thought I knew who I was. I thought I had confidence, I had this, I had that. And I just went, wow. Whenever I started doing this work, I'm like, I learned so much about myself. that was hidden away because it wasn't safe to show.
Yeah, and that goes all the way back to childhood, right?
Hmm.
That's all the way back to childhood. That's the conditioning that we get from society. That's conditioning from grandparents that's been passed down through to the parents on down to you. And then if we don't if we don't break the cycles, then that's going to be passed down to our children. And we don't even know what their experience is and what's going to need to be deconditioned in them. So it just gets passed along until we become aware.
Right. And then that's actually how you break patterns. You
Yeah.
become aware of them.
Yep. Conscious awareness. That
You
is what
become
it is.
aware of them and you choose something different.
Yeah. And I wanted to go back to something that you were sharing as far as like your um the way that you respond to someone and their projections or just feeling like you needed to almost take on their emotional state, their emotional status in order to, like, it's a coping mechanism, right? It's a way to cope. And so the way that I wanted, the thing that I was hearing that I wanted to share is this. You get to a point where you are so strong in your boundaries and in your sovereignty that your emotional status is no longer dependent on those around you. Your
Yes.
emotional well being is not dependent on the moods of others. So we can sit here and have a completely and totally different reality than the person who's having an experience in front of us.
Yes. Mhm. That is a whole different rabbit hole.
Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah. All right. Well, on that note, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Now, I think we covered a very vast repertoire here.
We did because it's such a vast topic. I mean, oh man. Okay, well, we hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you have any questions or would like to learn more, we love it. We love the conversations. So please drop a comment below, like, share if you know somebody that could actually use this in their lives, and subscribe for sure because, we're showing up at least once a week right now.
Yeah. Hmm.
I'm like, at least, right? And we're also on all audio platforms. So if you're not really into the videos, I mean, we're literally on all audio platforms. So you can go
Yes.
find us there with Red Lotus Life. Okay. Well, I think that just about does it.
Yep. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well,
Mhm.
we'll see everybody next time.
Mhm.
Bye.
Bye.
And